I don't know another way to say this. I'm just going to be blunt with this. They messed up big time. How a team, how a program, how a culture like Texas, one of the most prestigious college football programs of all time, messes up this bad, I don't know. But here's what I do know. It's going to cause some major problems. I would say the most debatable and interesting team going into 2022, it's got to be Texas, right? Because yeah, Georgia's rebuilding, but come on now, we know what we're going to get out of Georgia. You're always going to have good defense and just sound players. Alabama, they're Alabama. Ohio State, they're Ohio State. Now they do need to work on their defense, but overall, there's nothing that's going to shock us. Well, now that I think about it, Texas A&M's also going to be a very interesting team to keep up with because of everything that's happened in the offseason. Can all these 4- and 5-star recruits they got finally produce, and can they possibly compete for a national championship? I guess we'll have to see. Some would say that Oklahoma, that's going to be an interesting one, and I would somewhat agree with that. But to me, Oklahoma has great players and they have a great culture. Just because they lost their head coach and a quarterback and a wide receiver, I don't think they're going to fall apart completely. I don't think Oklahoma's going to compete for a championship, but I still think they're going to be A-OK in the Big 12. Another team is Clemson. They've been at the top for years, and last year was a down year. And with DJ Uiagalelei coming back, who knows what's going to happen. I like DJ as a person. Seems like a great and humble guy. He's just not a great quarterback. But since Clemson is in the ACC, and that is a terrible conference, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback for Clemson, they're still going to win 10 games at minimum. And maybe the second most fascinating team or controversial team in my opinion is USC, and I think most of us agree with that. It's for all the obvious reasons. They got Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison, Mario Williams. They balled out in the transfer portal, and it's just going to be awesome to see what happens over there. But very similar to Clemson, they're in a weak conference, and I don't think anybody's predicting USC to win less than 9 or 10 games. If you didn't see my top 25 list I put out a couple of days ago, I put USC all the way up at number 6. I know exactly what you're sitting there saying. Matt, how could you put them at 6? But I explained it in that video, and I'm going to explain it again here. USC has the talent. The only thing they were missing the past 5, 10, 15 years was a great head coach and a great quarterback, and now they got that. The defense does concern me, but if you're putting up 45 points per game, you're not going to lose too many of them. And why I put them at 6 is for this main reason. A lot of people have Michigan ahead of USC, and here's my counter argument. Would you bet on Michigan to beat USC if they played tomorrow? I know I wouldn't. So that's why I got them all the way up to number 6, because all the teams I put behind USC, I don't think they could beat USC. Or let me put it this way, they could theoretically beat them, but I wouldn't predict them to win if they played tomorrow. Everybody brings up how USC went 5-7 last year, and they're going to have to rebuild that program from the bottom up, but I disagree. This isn't a rebuilding situation with NIL, transfer portal, and everything going on. Nick Saban got to Alabama in 2007, and it took him right at 2 to 3 years to build that program up to championship caliber. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it no longer takes 2 to 3 years to rebuild programs because of the NIL and transfer portal. I don't even look at USC as USC. I look at them like they're Oklahoma 2.0 in the new and improved version. That's all it is, because think about it. You got the same head coach, same quarterback, and same wide receiver, just in a different uniform. And you're pretty much going to have the same defense, because Oklahoma's defense, they weren't too much better than USC's. The only real difference is USC is going to get more 4- and 5-star recruits to surround Caleb Williams with. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. If you do say USC, they're rebuilding and it's going to take some time, well, it also helps you're in the worst conference in college football history, the Pac-12. The most interesting team in the country and the most interesting situation in the country is Texas. Nobody, and I mean nobody whatsoever, knows what to expect. You watching this, you may think they're going to be really good or really bad, but you don't have facts and evidence to go with those claims. Let's say, for example, I think they're going to be pretty good, but I still don't know how good they're going to be because I've never even seen Quinn Ewers play a snap at the college level. If you think Quinn Ewers is going to be great, that's fine. If you think he's not going to be great, that's fine. But I think we can all come to terms with and agree he's a good quarterback. The question around that is just how good is he? Is he a Caleb Williams type of good, or is he a Spencer Rattler type of good? There's a difference. You know, with Caleb Williams, you get the outstanding plays. He's must-see TV. With Spencer Rattler, at least what I've seen in the past couple of years, not so much. Is Quinn Ewers going to be a Bo Nix type of good, or is he going to be a Bryce Young type of good? When it comes to being good or great, whatever you want to call it, there's different levels to it. That's concern number one, and that's the elephant in the room. And here's why they're the most controversial team to me. Because if you came up to me today and said, yo, Matt, I think Texas, they're going to go 5-7 or 4-8. You can make arguments for that, and I wouldn't think you're stupid. At the same time, if another person came up to me and said, yo, Matt, I think Texas, they're going to go 11-1 or 12-0, I could also see that. We really don't know. We really don't. Like, for example, USC and Clemson, there's question marks, but we know they're going to win at least 8, 9, 10 games. And that's at least. I would say for sure they're going to win at minimum 9. But for Texas, who knows? There's so many wild cards in the room, from the quarterback position to the entire defense and the head coach. Steve Sarkisian, I think he's one of the best offensive coordinators you can have, but he's not an offensive coordinator. He's a head coach now. I'm not saying I don't believe in him, but here's what I am saying. He hasn't given me reasons to believe in him. I said all that to lead up to this. Texas is trying to hide something, and it's not working. I don't know another way to say this. I'm just going to be blunt with this. They messed up big time. How a team, how a program, how a culture like Texas, one of the most prestigious college football programs of all time, messes up this bad, I don't know. But here's what I do know. It's going to cause some major problems. Whoa. Hold on. I know what you're sitting there saying, yo, Matt, you're over-exaggerating this. You're overhyping it. And I don't think so. You also have no idea what I'm talking about because nobody is talking about it and nobody's noticed it but your boy Matt. So let's just jump straight into it. And once I tell you this, it might change your mind. And I think you're going to agree with me. Let me start this out with a cold hard fact. Texas's defense last year was ranked 100th overall in total combined defense. That's awful. Don't make any mistakes about it. Nobody on the defense is good. There's not a single unit from the defensive line, middle linebackers to safeties and corners that was good. But by far the worst, without a single doubt in my mind, was the corners, safeties, and all the defensive backs. Letting your man get wide open and letting your man burn you on a man-to-man coverage, yeah, that's awful. But I don't think that was the worst part about the safeties, corners, and defensive backs. I think the worst part about all of them was their tackling. When a wide receiver or running back would get to that second level and the corners, safeties would have to make a play, they wouldn't. Through the air last year, Texas allowed exactly 224 yards of passing. Which, yeah, it's bad, but I guess it could be worse. But check this out. The defense allowed over 200 rushing yards per game. A main reason and a lot of part of that is because they couldn't tackle. What I'm about to show you and read off to you next, it's not coming from me, it's coming from a Texas article itself. This article is written by people that support Texas, so that should give you some perspective. Here's what they said. The Texas safeties may be better off following the departures of B.J. Foster and Brendan Schooler, the 2021 starting safeties. An improvement would likely not be possible if last year's starting safeties retained their roles. In 2022, the Texas safety position is largely made up of players who have been moved from other positions due to lack of depth. Do you not see how that is concerning? We're not talking about Boise State. We're not talking about Middle Tennessee State. We're not talking about Chattanooga, Georgia Water Aquarium University. We're talking about Texas. And you mean to tell me, big bad Texas, with the transfer portal and with the NIL, you can't find depth in the defense? Maybe it's just me. I guess I'm overreacting. But that's bad. It doesn't end there. Let's continue to move on. If you don't keep up with Texas, I wouldn't expect you to know this stuff. And even if you did keep up with them, I wouldn't expect you to know it either because they've been trying to hide it all summer long. Or not even all summer long, but dating back to the end of last year. So with the Texas secondary obviously being one of the worst in the country, the staff there, they said, okay, we got to go get some high school recruits to fill that position, and we also got to try to find some others in the transfer portal. No big deal, right? I mean, yeah, 2021, it was bad. We'll just go out and recruit some new guys, or like I said, go to the transfer portal. It's Texas, right? Who doesn't want to go to Texas and start right away? Well, Houston, we got a problem because the staff, they tried recruiting for that safety position. They tried going out looking for high school players to fill in that defensive back position, and they even tried going in the transfer portal and they couldn't find anybody. Or my bad, they were finding people, they just didn't want to go to Texas. And I know some people are going to try to say I'm making this crap up, so I'll just show you what the article themselves even said about it. I'm just going down to the bottom part where it says, unfortunately, the Texas staff was unsuccessful in adding a safety to their secondary and will have to make do with what they currently have on the roster. They couldn't even find a freaking safety, so now they're sitting there going, crap, I guess we'll just have to find some middle linebacker to play safety or find some other guy and switch positions. I could be wrong about this, but last time I checked, it's 2022, right? And in 2022, what do offenses do? Oh yeah, they pass the ball a lot. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, having good safeties, cornerbacks, defensive backs, whatever you want to call them, that is a vital part to your defense and your entire team. If you don't have a good safety, good defensive back, you're going to get exposed. Here's where things start to get even more concerning, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Texas front seven is not too much better. A great example was Georgia last year. Their front seven was impeccable, maybe the best of all time. Defense was unstoppable, but the one weakness wasn't secondary, and we saw what Bryce Young did in the SEC championship. The secondary wasn't even bad, but it was the one weakness in that defense. But the front seven for Georgia was so good at stopping the run and getting to the quarterback, they made up for it. The difference with Georgia's defense and this Texas defense, their front seven, and I'm talking about Texas, they can't make up for it. May I remind you, like I said at the beginning of this video, and it's why I said it, they allowed over 200 yards of rushing every single game. Or not every single game technically, but that was their average. You get what I'm trying to say. And from everything I've seen, I don't expect their front seven to be too much better. I gotta give them credit. Texas, they're trying their best to hide this. They really are, and maybe it will continue to go unnoticed in the offseason. But once the season starts, trust me, people will notice. Whenever that secondary starts playing great quarterbacks and great offenses, hint, hint, week 2 against Alabama and Bryce Young, you'll see what happens. I have one last question, and this is for the Texas fans, and we're going to end the video off here. You saw what happened last year. You saw how bad the secondary was, and that was with guys you knew were going to play. Well, how bad or how's it going to get better if you don't know who's going to play that position already heading into next year? The bright side to all of this is the guys who were playing last year on the defense, they weren't all too great. So I guess if you don't know who's going to play, it's technically better than the guys playing last year, if you know what I'm saying. But all these Texas fans and everybody in general, they're brainwashed because who's everybody talking about? Quinn Ewers, Steve Sarkisian, and Bijan Robinson. But you're missing out on the details. Yeah, having a Lamborghini, it's great, but if you don't have an engine in it, you're not going nowhere. You can have Quinn Ewers, you can have Bijan Robinson, you can have Steve Sarkisian, but if you don't have a defense, more importantly in secondary, you're not winning nothing. Like always, I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. Bye. Ciao, peace.